I got a new addition to the collection, and it's more rare than everything sitting here. It's not what you'd expect. Something I've never actually seen before in person. Most people wouldn't even know that this brand made a three-wheeler. So what is it? It's a Polaris. So this is a 1986 Polaris Scrambler 250. So these are only made 85 to 86. You don't see many of them around at all. Yeah, like I said, most people didn't even realize that Polaris ever made a three-wheeler. As far as the engine and stuff, this is a 250cc two-stroke. It's basically the same motor that's in like the later Trail Bosses and Trailblazers, but these are actually a little higher horsepower compared to those. They actually detuned these eventually for the Trail Bosses and even the Trailblazers. But they're fully automatic. They've got forward and reverse transmission there and a neutral, pull start and electric start. Like I said, they're fully automatic, so they use a CVT clutch system. It's identical to all the Polaris four-wheelers back in the day. So there's your clutch cover there, clutches and belt back behind there. And then chain driven down to the rear. Front and rear suspension on them. Let's go under the seat here. So this one's pretty original. I haven't cleaned it up or anything. I just got this thing in. It is missing the air box. It's got a little pod filter on there right now. These are also oil injected. So your gas tank would be right here. Oil reservoirs right there. This one, the oil injection was deleted, so it's premix only at the moment. A few unique things on this one. This one's got a Polaris, like aftermarket accessory front rack, so it's a little wider than the factory rack. Also has Polaris speedometer, shows about 2,000 miles. That still works on it. So you got indicator lights for neutral, reverse. Like I said, it does have electric start, high and low beams, front and rear brakes. From what I know of these, it sounds like the front end on these is actually identical to a Yamaha, that they basically just kind of sourced that from Yamaha. Essentially the whole front end and shock and brake, and even, you know, a lot of little things like the throttle, and even especially like the instrument cluster thing there. Those look identical to what's on the Yamahas. So this one I do kind of plan on restoring a little bit more, kind of painting up these footrests. So right here, there's normally a little Polaris emblem that goes in there, and I'm actually having some of these 3D printed. I had a friend that pulled the original Polaris print for that part number, and then had another source 3D print me a couple of those. So those will be back on there. Those things always pop off. They just kind of push into the little holes there with a couple little kind of plastic rivets, and they just fall out over time. So a lot of this tank, I think this stuff will clean up, just a little kind of oxidation and corrosion stuff on there, that I think I'll sand this down and kind of polish it back up and get this thing cleaned up real nice. So it does have electric start. There's where the battery's at. So motor wise in these, it's the same motor that you would see in like the Polaris Cyclone from like 87, 88, which was a higher horsepower 250 compared to like the Trail Boss and Trailblazers. So they had a little bit bigger carb on them and a little more aggressive porting in the cylinder. Supposedly these things will do about 60 miles an hour. I don't know if I want to go that fast with it, but, well, I think we'll start this thing up and take it for a little ride. All right, we'll start this thing up here. Then we'll go for a little ride. So unique things about these, the rear brake only works when it's in drive. So I'm in neutral right now. See, the speedometer will go up. If I hold the rear brake, it idles it back down and starts grabbing that brake. Reach down here, into drive there. First impressions are it's actually really comfy. The seat's nice and soft. Got a pretty soft ride to it. The interesting thing is the steering is just like very light. Takes very little effort to turn back and forth. And almost kind of feels like it wants to kind of lock, you know, when you're turning it to one way. So, and that's kind of what I've heard on these, is that overall they're not very stable compared to some of the other three-wheelers. It definitely feels that way. The steering just has a lot of really light input. It almost feels like it needs like a steering stabilizer or something in there, or some more caster in the front end. About 40 right now. We will go on the road here and kind of see how fast we can get it up to. It's definitely sketchy. It definitely felt like it would go faster, but it's not stable at those speeds at all. It's that the steering just doesn't give you very great feedback. It just feels very twitchy. Especially with the wide front tire on it. Maybe if it had a narrower front tire, it'd feel a little bit more stable. We'll flip it to reverse here. A nice two-stroke smoke. This thing hasn't ran in a while. It's been spitting oil out the exhaust a little bit. Trying to get this thing really warmed up and burn all that crap out of there. My headlight works. High and low beam. Alrighty, well, stay tuned. We'll try to get this thing out to some trails, maybe some sand or something, and not on the cement, see how it performs.